Well, welcome back. You saw me get the painting to this point earlier in the programme, and now we're going to carry on and finish it. I'm going to paint in these little bits to start with, and then it just makes it easier to work out where to go, as there's quite a lot of gondolas there. So using some cobalt blue and a little bit of light red, that will make a nice silver colour. Let's paint these in. Size 16 brush, but an amazing point. And little triangles at the back onto this one. Right, now the fun bit. Those lovely dark gondolas. A really good colour to use for that is Prussian blue and sepia mixed quite thickly together. So nice big brush, size 20. Some sepia. Make sure you've got lots of paint. We'll start with this one. So you can see that's nice and dark. Just take that up to there. I'm going to wash some of that out in a minute with a smaller brush. Bring that round. Alright, just get a smaller size 16 brush, some clear water, and the light, it's the only bit of light that we've got there really, that's just hitting that side. So just pull that out so it's a nice soft edge. A little bit more water on the brush. So the shadow or the reflection into the water is just going to be slightly lighter. And just bring that straight down. Little sort of movements to make it look like the water's just moving a little bit. I'll just use a smaller brush. I'll just pop in that end piece. Right, on to the next gondola. Just do the little half one on the end. That's all dark. Comes down there. You really need a big brush to do this quickly. A little bit that side. They're sort of like bananas that have been twisted, sort of just a banana shape that's just been twisted round. So just be careful when you draw them. The drawing's really important. And then you can just get the paint on quite quickly. On to the other gondola, just mix up a little bit more paint. It's just a little bit lighter there, so again some clear water. Just pull that out a little bit. And then it's very dark this side. Just keep that line of the other boat in there. Going straight into the reflections in the water there. So you don't have to worry too much about the bottom shape because it just goes straight into the water, and that sort of anything that you might have got a little bit wrong won't show up at all. And our final gondola. Let's use a slightly smaller brush for that, size 16. Fill that white space in. Any white spaces now that if you feel you've got too many, you can just fill those in quite quickly. Right, now we'll go for the poles that are supporting them. They're just part of the whole atmosphere. So some sepia and some dry brush marks. The dry brush marks are when you just rub the paintbrush down on the bumps on the paper and you get a lovely sort of broken line. So if we start here. You don't have to put every single one in because there probably would be too many and it would look a bit too much. So I've taken some of them out, but just enough to make it look interesting. Some reflections coming off of that one. I've just slimmed them down a little bit in the middle. We've got some coloured ropes that are holding the gondolas to those, so a little bit of red would be quite nice. And there's a little bit of a white line on the gondola, which would have been very, very difficult to have actually left it white and painted around it. So what I'm doing is now that that's dry, I'm going to put the white line on top, just using a brush. Keep the opaque white paint well away from your normal watercolours, because if you get that into them, they go really chalky and horrible. So keep it away, use a separate palette, and now we're just drawing those white lines. A little bit more squinting at the end, just to see if there's any more dark shapes that we need to put in. So just tidy up some of these little bits here to make them more definite. Just getting rid of some of those white marks. And add a little bit more yellow to that mix. Just squinting slightly. Little dry brush marks. The fabric creases. And there we are, a Venice scene completed.
Hello, today I'm going to show you a little tip that I found very useful for doing sea spray in where you get a wave hitting a rock and you get the spray coming up. Also, it's a good way of using up tiny little bits of pastel that you think otherwise is useless. It's worth hanging on to them. I'll show you why in a moment. Initially, I've got a sort of a basic seascape there with a couple of rocks in, but I wanted to sort of create the effect of some rough water coming in, and then so we're going along just putting a bit in, and the water alongside the rock there. I'm going to take it off this side as well. So you can imagine that wave coming in and it's hitting this rock. So initially you can use the old trick of throwing up some water like this, so the wave splashes up on the back of the rock and you get that wonderful sea spray crashing up. Let's try and get the action of the wave. And pastel's great for this because it just sort of creates its own, just a soft touch like that, you could create an instant sea spray. So there's the wave hitting the rock. And the next, let's have some of the water running down over the rock. So you get these little runnels, the water that runs down over the rock and into the water in front. Soften that off. So you get those little bits coming down the rock like that. So here's the spray. Take the painting down and lay it flat. And then those little bits of pastel that you end up with like that, if you just take it and crumble it like you would an OXO cube, and then you can take this and sprinkle it. Be sure and get a little bit over the rock as well. But where it is against the darker sky, it shows up. Now the mistake would be to do it all in white. So having got that there, I'm just going to touch that in, just to push it into the surface of the, this is pastel matte I'm using. A little bit of pale blue, a little bit of lavendery colour, because when you look at sea spray, it's like looking at water that creates a rainbow. So you get more than just white. So having tapped that in there like that, I then lift it up, just tap it, put it back on the easel, and then you can have a look and see whether you think it needs any more. Obviously there'll be some coming over this rock, but just for the demonstration purposes we'll just do that rock. But it's instant sea spray, very easy to do what could otherwise be a complicated, tricky exercise.